So I'm
Mm.
talking to my friends on WhatsApp, I'm buying stuff on WhatsApp, I'm booking my appointments on WhatsApp, I'm looking at awesome products on Instagram, and then I'm buying those products from people that I know or I follow. And it's just creating these communities and these sort of more personal interactions, which I think a lot of those larger platforms have kind of lost.
Welcome, builders, to How Would You Build It? The podcast that dives deep into the dynamic world of startups and product creation right here in South Africa and Africa. This show is more than just interviews. Every week, we sit down with the brilliant minds to provide a masterclass for building digital products amidst the challenges and opportunities unique to our continent. From seasoned founders to dynamic product managers, we uncover the unique stories and strategies behind some of the most innovative digital products being built. So for all the aspiring founders and product builders out there, you'll discover that each episode is a wealth of practical wisdom and local and actionable insights. Make sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to our podcasts and connect with us on social media for even more content. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How Would You Build It, episode 48. And I'm excited. Today, we're going to be talking commerce, launching a business on WhatsApp, launching a business using low code, no code, and very importantly, how to get paid. And with me, I've got Danielle and Dean from Wigwag. Danielle is the GM of Wigwag and Dean, the head of engineering. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. Very excited to be here.
Thank you very much.
Lekker. So in our newsletter last week, we spoke about, the rise of social commerce and people selling stuff online. And, all of this just plays into this trend where a lot of people have little side hustles and things they're selling, which isn't really something new. I mean, I grew up going to flea markets and, at flea markets, people would sell all kinds of craft things and things they make, etc. And then we had the likes of, Gumtree in the early 2000s, where people would also not only sell secondhand stuff, but some of the stuff they'll make themselves. But lately, it seems like people on WhatsApp are, using WhatsApp. So what is this rise in WhatsApp selling groups, and why has it become so popular?
Yeah, it's actually been amazing to watch this happen from our side. So obviously in South Africa, WhatsApp is huge. 96% of internet users use WhatsApp. It's by far the most popular communication channel. And 2 years ago, there were about 21 million users, and it's estimated that by 2026, there'll be 26 million users. So it's absolutely huge. And what we've really seen with these groups is they tend to be orientated around a common interest. So it's basically just somewhere where members can buy and sell goods and services. And with WhatsApp's new community functionality, they've really made it easy to create these engaged marketplaces. So we've seen these take on multiple forms, everything from secondhand baby clothes or luxury goods sales, even job postings. People have really maximized the use of these and created these really great communities. And some of these groups actually have a fee that you need to pay to join or list. And it's really interesting because those have effectively become businesses in themselves. So they're a business running this group, and then they engage other businesses on the group. So it's really just a great community-based way of buying and selling.
And I think for most people, I mean, this is like news, right? They go like, where are these groups? I didn't even know this existed. And I didn't know until I saw my wife rocking up with a lot of stuff at the house. Just people dropping them off. And I'm like, where are you buying this stuff? She's like, no, I'm in a declutter group. I'm like, well, the objective of declutter is to sell stuff, not buy more stuff. Anyway, so my wife found it and she loves it because she sees all kind of antique furniture and things on there. But how do these groups typically start, or how do you even find them, if not through a friend or someone that you know?
So generally, that is how you find them. So these groups are usually started by somebody who wants a place to buy and sell things themselves, and then they tend to grow through word of mouth. Another really interesting method that we've seen is that these groups tend to be started at a community level. So there'll be a WhatsApp community, and then within that community, there are these subgroups. So for instance, one of the bigger ones that we've seen is the Nifty community, and they have groups where there's 20 of their groups, and they have everything from the sale of books to camping and outdoor gear. And each of these subgroups within the Nifty community have thousands of members. So generally, I would say it is word of mouth, but also through these bigger communities that then have the subgroups for special interests.
And it's fascinating. I mean, because all of this is done with basically no tech. I mean, these people literally just gather around in interest, and they put in the elbow grease and the time, I guess, to get people on there and make it exciting and useful, and then all of a sudden you've got a almost like a e-commerce marketplace without any code. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant.
Now, a big problem, obviously, is, all of this leads to a transaction. And, we've all heard horror stories, like if you buy something on Gumtree, you go somewhere, some guy asks you, get in the car, and then, there's all kinds of funny stories that happens. And sometimes actually quite dangerous things, right? So exchanging of money, trading, those things have traditionally been quite a challenge with these things. And EFT, there's a lack of trust. Cash is always, there's a bit of a risk with that. Wigwag has built a solution specifically for these users. Like, can you maybe tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So tell you a little bit about Wigwag to start off with. We're a new payments company. We were built on top of technology that's used by large enterprises and corporates. We are partnered, or we are part of Stitch. So we leverage all of their technical infrastructure, and we build products for entrepreneurs and startups. So the first product that we built and launched last year is our checkout product. And this is basically a way for anyone to receive online card payments. And so when a user signs up with Wigwag, we generate what we call their Wigwag ID, which is basically just a link in the form of just.wigwag.me/their business name. So really easy to remember, really easy to send on any platform. And effectively what that does is it provides you with a customizable checkout. So for instance, maybe Dean's business would have, say, Dean's Cupcakes. It would be just.wigwag.me/Dean's Cupcakes. He can then send that on Instagram, on WhatsApp, over email. And when his user opens that, they will see a checkout, effectively as if he'd built a whole website to take payments. And what we allow our users to do is to customize that checkout. So they can add their logo, and they can really make sure that it's clear that that is coming from them. And they can send this to anyone on any platform. And so it just becomes a really easy way, as you mentioned, with absolutely no code, to receive payments in a secure environment, but still also with a professional payment experience.
And then payment wise, I mean, what are we talking? I'm assuming we're talking about card payments. Any other methods?
At the moment, it's just card payments, and that serves sort of 99% of the market. And it's also the safest way to get paid in terms of, you've got the card schemes and the banks that have all these brilliant rules and security measures that allow card payments to become super seamless and super safe.
But also, I mean, we all know that Stitch is in the center of all this open API, open banking integration. So I'm sure as Stitch makes moves in that space, you'll see some of that coming along. So definitely exciting. But Danielle, it's not only applicable to, I mean, Dean's Cupcakes. I mean, if I do plumbing services, then I mean, a lot of people have started using WhatsApp Business to, just organize their business in. I mean, this is something that they can use as well.
Absolutely. So in terms of WhatsApp Business, that's been super interesting for us to watch. We've seen a large take up specifically in service businesses, so nail technicians, businesses selling goods that are on custom order, as well as restaurants, actually. We've seen a lot of restaurants who want to take delivery orders, but they don't necessarily want to pay the fees of the delivery app. So they've actually set up, they've got their own driver and they take orders over WhatsApp. And that's obviously the WhatsApp Business app. But if we then take a look at the WhatsApp Business platform, which obviously has a bit more technical abilities, we've seen some really cool stuff happening there too. So we actually have a customer he runs a small ISP in a few areas in Johannesburg, and he actually runs his monthly billing through WhatsApp with the Wigwag link. So he's written a really basic script that runs through all of his customer list every month, sends them a WhatsApp with a Wigwag link, and they can simply pay with their card.
But this is actually fascinating because you touched on the food deliveries. And I mean, if you think about it, one of Uber Eats as an example, I mean, they offer the product really offers three different things, right? So the first thing is product discovery. So, hey, what do you feel like eating? So now I go, sushi, who's got sushi around here? Oh, this sushi special looks nice. So that's the first thing. The second thing is payments, right? And then the third part is the delivery part, which, it's kind of location specific. So all of that integrated gives you Uber Eats. and coincidentally also gives you Uber, right? Because Uber goes, I need to find a driver, I need to find his location, and I need to be able to pay. So, but what you're saying is effectively the combination of WhatsApp and your payment solution pretty much almost gets one day. So you can almost launch a Uber Eats or a Uber, if you will, without having to build any tech really, just switching on payments and using WhatsApp.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. And that's super exciting for these smaller businesses. And I think where it becomes really relevant is once you remove that requirement for a marketplace or for discovery, when they've got, loyal customers that buy takeout every weeknight or something like that. They don't need to discover them. They know that they're there and they just want to order for them. And I think for those restaurants, if they're not necessarily needing that discovery aspect, it's a very expensive price to pay. And so no code, cheaper solution for the use case of regular customers becomes super relevant.
Geez, I'm already thinking about how do you build an airport trips, Stellenbosch to airport trips community, getting some Uber drivers on in a WhatsApp group, putting out payments and taking a
Love it.
quarter of the fee of Uber and making everyone happy.
Love it. 10 years travel business.
Yes. If you do it, you make lots of money. Please take me out for lunch. So I mean, we've mentioned payments. Like obviously, when you service these customers, I'm assuming you engage a lot with your customers, which are obviously the people receiving payments. And then any other workflow things that you've picked up or that you're working on that you're also introducing into the platform that you think would benefit this kind of use case?
Absolutely. So one of the pieces that we had from the first solution is actually the ability to collect delivery details as well as customer details. And this becomes relevant, obviously, firstly, if you're delivering goods, whether that be a food order, clothing, any services or goods that you're delivering to a specific address, you would need to collect the delivery details. And then we also store those within the platform along with the customer details. So it's great because similarly to an e-commerce website where you would be collecting payment and delivery details at the same time, you can now do that with no code, no subscription paid to an e-commerce platform, and really just get it all for free, which is great. And then the second aspect that a little bit of a sneak peek, we'll be launching this in the next few weeks, is actually once again the sort of WhatsApp in the other way, in that you'll be able to engage with your payments over WhatsApp. So a lot of these businesses are on the go. They live a very busy life and they don't necessarily want to go into an app and check if a customer's paid them. They don't want to log into a platform. They can actually simply send a message to our bot and they'll be able to be told who's paid them, how much they've been paid, what is their Wigwag balance, all of those sorts of things. So while they're running their business on WhatsApp, they should also be able to engage with their payments on the same platform.
And I can imagine how this can evolve with AI chatbot functionality over time, right? So, if a customer hasn't paid within 5 days, send an order follow up and with the link, etc. So I can imagine those things really adding value to the service industry. Like, I mean, if you ever dealt with a tradesperson, you'll know, like, sometimes you don't even get an invoice, they don't even follow up on payment. It's chaos, and they literally live hand to mouth. Because they're just one job to the next. They don't have time for admin. So I can imagine something like this really helps them a lot.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a bit about the product side of things. So, when you're building a payment solution, great UX is absolutely key. I mean, if there's any kind of friction, the drop-off is massive. Like, what are some of the things that Wigwag does as a company when you're building product to make sure you stay ahead and make sure the product really has low friction?
So number one is easy sign up. This is something that we spent a lot of time on. It's probably the part of the product that we spent the most time on. And the reason that this is obviously important is you've got someone with a great business or a great business idea. They need to receive payments. Any barrier that you put between them and their money is not going to be appreciated. And so what we've actually found is this has been a huge benefit to us in terms of when we chat to merchants about why did you choose Wigwag? What made you choose this over all of the competitors? And usually their response is, I signed up for a few and you were the easiest, quickest one to get signed up with and transacting. So that's number one. like make it really easy to sign up, really easy to use, and then also simplicity. So I think a lot of the payment solution providers in the market have overcomplicated their products. They've made it really confusing to use. People don't always know which product they're supposed to be using. So we've created it to be really simple and easy to use and to find the right product for you in a really quick way so that you can kind of do what you do best, growing your business, and we can take care of the payment side of things.
But I think what is interesting for me is when we talk about, frictionless sign up, right? So a lot of times the excuse people will make is, well, there's regulation and there's steps you have to take, etc. How do you go about getting creative to obviously still be within the boundaries of that, but make this process simple? Because I mean, I absolutely agree. Getting your money quickly or signing up and being able to get a payment is super important. But obviously there are some regulatory boxes that one needs to tick down the line. How do you go about those things, and how do you make sure that you do best of both worlds?
So we leverage technology as much as possible. And that's really what makes it a lot quicker. So we use tools like OpenAI to look at documents, be able to pull the fields. You don't need to tell us the answers. You can upload your document, we can pull the fields, and then we have API integrations to all of the necessary services to go and check that you are a valid business. And so really, I think leveraging technology, leveraging the interface tools that we have. So for instance, in our onboarding process, there's a QR code. If you want to, you're signing up on your desktop and you want to be able to use a photo that's on your phone, you scan the QR code and it automatically opens up the onboarding on your phone. If you want to share it with your business partner, there's a really easy way to do that. So you can quickly send it to them and they can upload the necessary documents and then you can continue. So I think we've got the technology at our disposal. We've got some amazing tools that we can use to make this experience really seamless. And so we've really invested time in doing that.
That's awesome. And I love how, that's really a practical use of AI, because, a lot of times people just slap in AI for the sake of AI. Has there been a lot of conversations? Let me pass this one to Dean. Dean, how's the AI conversations going at the water cooler and beyond at Wigwag?
We've had some discussion around AI. Danny's mentioned a potential WhatsApp bot that we might be releasing, just to allow you to interact with our API and with your payments. That's our main, or at least our latest foray into integrating AI into our product.
Okay, awesome. And from your perspective, I mean, looking at AI in general, I've been using Bard more recently than ChatGPT. So I think Google is catching up silently without not people taking note. What is your view on who's the front runner and who's probably going to win?
I think we're in a place at the moment where AI is a new tool that we don't know how to use, and in fact, it's multiple tools that we don't know how to use effectively yet. I think each one does have its benefits, and we're all figuring out together what parts of which tools work best, and how can we best use these to bring power to people.
Yeah. How far are we from AI making payments on our behalf?
About a day. No, I'm not sure.
I think that's where it gets interesting, right? Because you're relinquishing some part of your control if you allow that to happen. But I can definitely see some use cases for that in the future. So very interesting. So let's talk a bit about no-code solutions. So we've been talking about WhatsApp actually as a no-code solution, but outside of WhatsApp, there's been a rise in no-code solutions. So what kind of businesses have you seen implement low-code solutions? And if anybody out there wants to start a side hustle, like, why should they seriously consider this as an option?
Me?
You go ahead, Dean.
No, go ahead then.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think we're in a place now where previously no-code solutions were considered to be these sort of hacky things that you could plug in temporarily. But a lot of these platforms have gotten to the point now where they're super easy to use, and they're no longer these sort of hacky versions that you use to test on a business or to prototype, but something that you can actually use longer term. But I'm interested to hear your answer.
Can you restate the question?
So no code solutions, like so let me ask you this question, Dean. So a lot of people talk about no code, low code. There's a lot of talk out there, and there's different degrees of understanding of what that means. Maybe share a bit about like what are examples of no code solutions that have ended up being really interesting businesses. We spoke about using WhatsApp, but any other interesting ways you've seen people use technology that doesn't require any coding skills, and is now a functioning business?
Sure. I think WordPress and WooCommerce are probably a very good example of low code or no code solutions. You can easily sign up and get a WordPress site up running for a blog, and you can plug in WooCommerce to turn it into a shop. Very easy, no code really required. Yeah, so there are lots of examples like that allow people to get their hands on technology without having to put in all the time to try and learn another skill on top of running your business.
Yeah. And where does the limitations come in? I mean, we can surely, I mean, you can't do anything in low code or no code that you can do in tech. And Dean, you being a tech person yourself, like often there's a bit of reluctance from tech people to say like, these things, as a place. So what is the place for low code and no code?
So to me, low code is just another interface on top of an engine, some kind of system that needs to do something. It's the same as I guess code solutions. Like if you put an API on top of this engine, we tend to design our engines in a way that we can put a simple interface on, whether that's code or low code. So my point is, the value comes in designing your systems in a way that you can give people as much flexibility as is useful to them. Meaning, I've lost my point. Sorry, I've lost my point there. Give me a sec to think about that. Go ahead.
I think you meant about like an engine with different use cases built on top of it, like creating an interface into these tools that anyone can use.
Yeah, so what we try to do is make sure that whatever interface we build, whether that's low code or code interface, provides a bit of value, but in a very, very simple way. Yes, I feel like that didn't answer the question, but my apologies.
That's good. No worry, we'll edit it and make it come across nice. So I mean, what kind of low code solutions can one use? Let me rephrase that. Let me get to the questions. Okay, so you guys have built this platform to get paid, right? And I mean, we spoke about the link that you can send on and people get paid, and that sounds awesome. But if someone wants to now take the next step and go, okay, managing this stuff on WhatsApp's getting out of hand. My trips to the airport business is booming. I'm doing 1,000 a day. I can't use WhatsApp anymore. I need to build a website. So now obviously low code is something one can consider. You don't have to really understand too much or even no code too much about the tech, and you get going. But what kind of platforms is there a step or a direction that you would say, rather use WordPress because it's easy to implement Wigwag, or which ones would you recommend?
WordPress is a good choice. We have a WooCommerce plugin at the moment that allows you to easily take your Wigwag account, plug it into your WooCommerce site, and you have payments. You have payments that will link into your whole store. You can update order statuses so you know if they've been paid or not. So that's a really, really, really good option. There are other.
And then foreign payments as well. So if I have a German tourist that wants to book a trip, they can use their German card.
Yes, they can.
Okay, awesome.
That's one of the main benefits of card payments and how easier that makes foreign payments. So we have a lot of customers who work specifically in the travel industry or who are looking to take their business international. And it's so much easier than trying to receive a SWIFT payment or, go through all of the foreign exchange admin. It's really a case of you send them the link, they pay with their card, and the ZAR lands in your bank account a few days later. So it really opens that up for a lot of South African businesses. And that's something that we've seen has become really exciting in helping South African businesses grow in that way.
Yeah, I think the tourism thing is also very interesting, right? Because, tourist operators are often small operators, 1 or 2 people. that do really nice excursions, typically for tourists. And I can imagine this as a payment tool is really cool. But something I'm thinking about, which is also really interesting, is how that could actually help specific operators get tips post the tour, right? You can go, here's a link if you want to give me a tip. No one's carrying cash around anymore. So use the link and use your credit card and pay that way, which I think is pretty cool. Have you seen anybody use that, or is this an idea I'm just seeding into the community?
Oh, absolutely. So that's actually a really interesting aspect that we've built into the checkout functionality and that we've seen as relevant. So when we first built checkout, it was a set amount. So you would send a link for 100 Rand and the person would pay 100 Rand. And then we started to, for instance, on our restaurant order customers, they would say, oh, but then the person can't add a tip. Another use case there is nonprofits. People would say, oh, but I don't know how much the person wants to donate, and it's a little bit awkward to ask and then send the link. And that's when we started to create the flexibility on the link to literally just send it with just the input field of this is how much I want to pay you. But then obviously also you don't know who that person is. And that's when we added fields like customer details. And so what that creates is the flexibility to allow your user to pay you whatever amount they want, whether that be a donation or a tip or anything like that, but then also to gather their details so that you can follow up afterwards. So for instance, if a specific customer was a very good tipper and you want to offer them a new service or a new tour, you can then get in touch and you can start to monitor your users through the details aspect of those payments, which we allow for in the platform.
Okay, awesome. That sounds great. I want to talk a bit about e-commerce. So, I mean, anybody following the news would have seen about 50 articles by now that Amazon is coming and Takealot's not worried and this company is not worried and nobody's worried. So, a lot of talk about Amazon, and I think they love it because they probably haven't spent a single cent on any kind of marketing or PR in South Africa, and all their competitors are writing articles about them coming. But the point, what I want to talk about is like, this perfect storm of e-commerce, which, for years, everybody in South Africa in tech, we were hearing these stories about, e-commerce is going to take off. E-commerce is going to take off. And it just never did. I mean, let's be honest. I think Takealot, last time I checked, still not profitable. At least they're doing a substantial amount of revenue now per year. But yeah, still not profitable. But stuff, obviously, COVID lockdown came, Checker 6060, fantastic product. I'm sure they're profitable. As a business unit, they're doing really well, really driving Checkers' sales across the board, which I think is fantastic. But it's really driven this adoption of e-commerce in South Africa. And I think that's probably likely why Amazon's coming, right? They see it's finally time for e-commerce to take off. What is your view on what the e-commerce landscape looks like? Like, what is going down in the space in the next 24 months?
Well, what we've seen has been really interesting for us is actually sort of in-channel sales or commerce, if that makes sense. So something that kind of moves away from that very traditional e-commerce model is actually selling on Instagram, which is contrary to the current events in that Facebook or Meta recently removed the ability to have Amazon stores or shopping. And it's actually quite interesting because people are still using Instagram to sell goods. And one of the reasons that they're using it is the hype. So quite a few of our customers are vintage resellers. And we often ask them, you've had your business for quite a while. You're big enough that you could start an e-commerce store. You could get a Shopify or a WooCommerce, etc. Why haven't you done that? And their response is that it loses the excitement and the energy of a drop. So what they do is they will schedule a drop. They'll start to put up a few posts that are like teasers for that drop, things they're going to sell, get people excited, put a countdown on. And then when it gets to that time, they'll post all the photos and the first person to comment gets the goods. And that just creates like a lot of excitement around it. It allows you. Exactly. It allows you to build up this community, get people excited, and allow them to share the goods that are going to go on sale, monitor, the countdown, all of those sorts of aspects. And obviously now with sort of like Facebook checkout or Facebook stores, Instagram stores being taken out of South Africa, people are now doing things like selling over DM. So if you're the first to contact us, we'll DM you, you pay us, we'll get your delivery details, etc. So once again, like a great channel for something like a payment link or a checkout, where you can then just simply send checkout, say, pay me, check who's paid you, and collect their delivery details. But I think the most important aspect there is that what these traditional channels don't necessarily have is that hype, that FOMO, and that aspect of community and excitement.
And we're actually just enabling the payment and the capturing of the address part in this thing that's already taking place.
Exactly. And then obviously from there, a lot of our users are very big fans of Pago. I think they've really taken off, and they've made it super easy for a small business to get goods delivered in a really easy way. So I think that partnered with something like Wigwag Payments and then a social media, you've kind of got this really great bundle of solutions that's created a great way to sell things and to engage with people.
Yeah, it's amazing. You mentioned Pago, but I mean, there's so many of them that have become so good. I mean, Parcel Ninja, Pickup, Pago, all of them have really figured out this complex problem of logistics. And it's really starting, and I think, that's part of the perfect storm I'm talking about. It's like, we finally have logistics. We all waited for the post office to pull the trigger and become the state enterprise we always wanted them to be and deliver e-commerce goods. Unfortunately, didn't happen. But it's just, once again, an example of how the private sector stepped in and done deliveries really well. So I'm really excited about what this will mean for the South African economy, because all of a sudden you have a bunch of people that can now easily start businesses, get paid, and get stuff delivered, and build it out from there. Which is also interesting because e-commerce, we think about Takealot, selling everything. Now all of a sudden they're up against niches, right? They're up against the person that sells something at a lower margin to a very specific audience. Like, how do you see that play out in the next few years?
I think we've kind of gone full circle, right? I think when traditional e-commerce came out and we started to get a lot of these aggregators, it became very impersonal and kind of a race to the bottom from a price perspective, because the second that you're competing with someone on the same channel, it's really just a case of the person searching and filtering from lowest to highest price. And then you're done. Either you're the lowest price at the lowest margin and the largest scale, or you're not competitive. And so I think a lot of these niche sellers have moved away from that for that reason. And they've started to personalize sales more. They know the people that are buying from them. And they're also allowing people to kind of shop in the same place where they're already engaging. So I'm talking to my friends on WhatsApp, I'm buying stuff on WhatsApp, I'm booking my appointments on WhatsApp, I'm looking at awesome products on Instagram, and then I'm buying those products from people that I know or I follow. And it's just creating these communities and these sort of more personal interactions, which I think a lot of those larger platforms have kind of lost.
And I love that, because what we're looking at is some big players will win. Let's call it Takealot and Amazon, and a few other big ones will do really well. But then the real exciting opportunity is for the small niche guys, right? I mean, those big guys can never compete with you. I was doing some research the other day. I found 3 online stores, South African online stores, that sells unboxed Lego kits from like the 80s and 90s. And I couldn't believe it, and because it was so easy for them to set it up and go, I've got unboxed Lego. And by the way, that old gift we all got, the cheap Lego, like you got that cheap Lego from that aunt that was always cheap, right? You shouldn't have opened that. They sell for 2,500 rand. So
Wow.
and it's just fascinating because there's all of these unique niches that people are building businesses in. And whether or not they make money is a different thing, but I do think there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm quite excited about that.
Absolutely. It's super exciting.
Okay, cool. All right, so now, payments, we're talking about people's money. Like, I run a business, I need to get paid, but then everybody goes, cool, is it safe, is it secure? Dean, what are some of the things that you guys do to make sure that these payments are secure? And then, how on the back end, like obviously there's a lot of complex stuff that most people don't understand. How do I get my money out? Like, how does it end up in my bank account?
So to the first question, we have currently two payment methods. The main one that we've already mentioned is the checkout flow, and you get a payment link and you follow through the flow. You type in your card details. The way that we ensure that that's secure is we currently leverage Stitch's enterprise software that has all the certifications and all the backend encryption, all of that stuff to actually manage the storing of the card details and sending off the payment and stuff like that. The other product that we have is what we call card consents. Essentially, someone who wants to sign up for a service will allow your service via API to store and save their card details, but not the details themselves. We provide a tokenized version of the card that you can then use later on to charge that card, if that's on a monthly schedule or whether that's ad hoc as they pay for different services and products. The second question was about the flow.
How does the flow of funds? Yeah, how does it end up in my bank account?
Yes. So the way that the money flows, you will either execute a card payment using our card tokenization service, or someone pays you via your checkout link. What happens is that payment is initiated on the back end, and we are settled the next day for that amount into an aggregated account. That then is reflected on your Wigwag balance. So we immediately make that available as soon as we know the funds are available, which is normally the next day, depending on weekends and holidays. And once that's in your Wigwag balance, you can initiate a withdrawal, and that'll go to your verified bank account. That withdrawal you can choose either, if you're not in a rush, you pay R2 and you'll get it the next day, or you can ask for an instant payout that'll be R10, and that should be in your account pretty much instantly.
Okay, awesome. And that I mean, it's goes across different banks. It doesn't matter where you bank or.
Yes.
Okay, amazing, cool. So we are concluding the formal part of this, and now for the fun part, Danny, we're going to do a lightning round, where I'm going to ask you some questions, and first thing that comes to mind is what you need to answer. So firstly, Amazon or Takealot?
Amazon.
Interesting. Okay. Secondly, if you were to recommend a book on startups or business or technology, what would you recommend and why?
This is so hard. Last business book I read, I'm trying to think. I really enjoyed Hooked, because yeah, I would recommend Hooked. I think it's a really interesting combination of like psychology, business, and economics and behavior.
Look, any product person needs to read that book. If you're in product and you haven't read that, you need to read that book. Have you read the follow-up, by the way?
I haven't.
So you did a second book because you got a lot of flack because people were like sending him hate mail, adding him on social, going, he's making people addicted. So you wrote a book, Indistractable, which is how to be immune to being hooked. So it's more personal focused, but like how to form habits to not get hooked, which was quite fascinating. So go check it out. Hooked and Indistractable by Nir Hial, I think is his name. The great author. Okay, interesting. If you would build a startup any place other in the world except South Africa, where would you do it?
Probably Nigeria. I think it's a really interesting market.
Okay, fascinating. And then Instagram or TikTok?
TikTok.
Oh, wow. Do you do all the dance moves?
I do not. I am a pure consumer of TikToks. I am not a creator.
Okay, one of the observers. That's great. Awesome. Cool. And then I've got one for Dean. Dean, what will win in the long run? Open banking or blockchain?
Oh, in the long run. It's such a dev answer, and Danny hates when I say this, but it depends. It depends on many things, but I'll go as far as to say this. I like the promise of open banking.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Well, actually, in the long run, I mean, blockchain could become open banking, and then it's kind of like the same thing. But yeah, definitely a lot of interesting things happening in that space. Danny and Dean, thanks so much for joining us from Wigwag. It's really exciting to talk about this. It's a world that I recently only discovered. But yeah, really excited for all the side hustlers and small businesses to, utilize these channels and build some side businesses or main hustles, if you will. Definitely exciting time. So thanks so much for joining.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.